Take me out back. Got it. Great.
Scuba Rob says we are 5 by 5. Good morning, everybody. It's White Girl Wednesday. It is the 4th of Goon, 2025. Now, you may be wondering, Bear, did you say Goon? I thought it was the month of June. It is not. It is not the month of June. It is the month of Goon. Now, you may be unfamiliar, but around here, we celebrate the month of Goon. Gooning has the children who have co-opted the language with words like skibbity bop Ohio, which is not, it's just not, have co-opted the phrase goon. Yeah, it now means somebody who's essentially addicted to pornography.
That's disturbing.
Yep, and we're pushing back against that. That's not what I'm talking about.
No.
I'm talking about multicam, doing the things, putting your plate carrier on, putting your helmet on, throwing on a rucksack, getting out there, training. We're going to talk more about that later in the show, but it's the month of Goon. It's also not Pride Month, and I'm also pushing back against that. I realize as an American, everybody more or less has a right to live their life however they see fit. That's fine. But you don't get a month because of your sexual preference when people who have bled and died on behalf of this country only get a day. So it's not Pride Month. Nope. And Pride comes before the fall. You should read your Bible. So it's the month of Goon. And it is also White Girl Wednesday. Say hi, co-host.
Hi, I'm the resident white girl. I'm Lissa, not from the internet.
You're killing it. You're doing great. Thank you for being here. We have some things to talk about today. This guy looks trustworthy. You know you're dealing with a professional when they have 2 microphones to spit propaganda. That's a good one.
Yep.
I'm not saying this dude has never fornicated with a goat, but I am saying that I would believe it if somebody told me that they did. Iran could accept nuclear consortium on its soil, Iranian officials say. Iran is open to basing a nuclear deal with the U.S. around the idea of regional uranium enrichment consortium, so long as it's located within Iran. This coming from Axios News. A senior Iranian official tells Axios. That's interesting. It's so cool that senior officials in basically terror states can just reach out to people and issue propaganda to them. A regional enrichment consortium, which is a big word, is a key element in the proposal White House envoy Steve Witkoff gave Iran on Saturday. Now, here's the thing. Again, why do I care? We're going to talk about control the controllables here in a minute. Why do I care? My entire life, I've been hearing, we're 2 weeks away from Iran getting a nuclear bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're younger than me.
I was born in the late 1900s. And there's not been a time when it's not been, Iran,
They're going to kill us all.
Yep.
You know, Israel's the little Satan and America's the great Satan, and they're going to bomb us, and we're all going to die, and maybe.
It's Wednesday, so the probability goes up.
That's true. There is a spike in probability of Iran killing people on Wednesdays. Not saying, allegedly, because YouTube simps for terror states, and so if you say anything against terror states on the internet, YouTube gets very upset about that.
You're going to get a little flag for this one?
Yeah, alternate channel is the blue collar president, by the way, because Bear Independent already has 2 channel strikes, and it's just a matter of time. Like the sword of Damocles dangling over our heads. Joke's on them. Meh. So, my entire life, Iran is going to make us glow in the dark. And then when Trump was elected, the second time, one of the major talking points here was like, that's not going to happen. We're going to work out a deal with Iran. And then it turned into like, well, Iran has 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. And if they bring that up to 90%, that's enough to make not 1, but 10 nuclear bombs.
Oh, my goodness.
And we'll never let that happen. And now it's like, Man, we'll let it happen as long as the U.S. bases a regional uranium enrichment consortium inside of Iran. So now you and I are funding
the thing that's inside of the country that can then be taken over by the country. So we've put materials in terrorists.
We're funding terrorism.
We've never done that before.
That's, it's funny you say that.
We've never done that
The
before.
United States has a long and sordid history of directly funding terrorism.
We like to leave Blackhawks places.
Yeah, Afghanistan
That's
drawdown.
happened
Anyone? This, by the way, this is really good for stress relief, and it works on your grip strength. So, if, quote, if the consortium operates within the territory of Iran, it may warrant consideration. However, should it be based outside the borders of the country, it's certainly doomed to fail, the senior Iranian official told Axios. Okay, that response suggests Tehran may not outright reject Witkoff's offer, but instead seek to negotiate on the fine print. Which brings me back to, you may remember a little place called Diego Garcia. It's got 6 B-2 bombers on it. I think 6, the other big planes, and a bunch of KC-135 Stratotankers, and just, basically the amount of equipment necessary to wipe a country off the map just sitting there. And so if Iran was like the threat that they say that it is, why then? Why are you gay? To quote Mike, if it's that bad, why haven't we wiped them off the face of the earth? That's my big question. What? It's the Iridium group in the chat. Good morning. 423 concurrent viewers. Man, remember the good old days before the YouTube shadow banning when it was like 4,023 concurrent viewers? Maybe I was just better at this then, back in the day.
No, I think you're better at it now.
Do you?
Yeah.
Genuinely?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been watching since Wheeze was this big.
Oh,
so.
Okay. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Cool. Bear, is there a third channel, a backup for the backup? Says Beef Bacon in the chat. Yeah, it's Patreon. Links in the description down below.
And if you mention Rumble, he'll hurt somebody, and I'm the closest person, so
Rocklick,
don't say that.
Good morning. Yeah, Rumble's. I wish Rumble was good. Wubby, shalom, brother. Absolutely better now. Appreciate that. So anyway, Iran's gonna make us glow in the dark. Yeah, typical. Let's see. To that point, you know what? We'll read this one too, and then I'd like you to speak on controlling the controllables.
Okay.
This is a new one today. Justice Department accuses 2 Chinese researchers of smuggling potential agroterrorism weapons into the United States. Okay, I'm not saying that they did or didn't do this. We'll get into what the article says here in a minute. But let me ask you, to what degree are you even concerned with the likes of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino?
I'm not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Okay.
I'm generally very unconcerned about people who I don't see in real life, though. Like, I get that they affect my life, but not really as much as I think a lot of people think they do.
I don't think either of them are reliable witnesses.
That's fair.
And so they've now become part of the machine, and so whatever they say is propaganda. And everything that they're saying these days tends to be the opposite of all the things that they said before they were part of the system. And so then my question becomes, were you lying then, or are you lying now? You know?
Are they lying, or have they been brainwashed, blackmailed, or otherwise coerced?
Well, I think
in either direction.
I think it's definitely coercion. My guess is, I don't know. This is allegedly, YouTube, allegedly.
Yeah.
They are appointed by Trump as director and
control the actual volume out.
No. Why? Does it need to be louder?
There's a lot of comments. I don't normally care, but there's a lot of comments that they can't hear us very well.
That controls the volume out. We'll try that. No, that's the volume on the headphones. Back to us, should we choose to use them. So I just adjusted the volume. If it's still low, I'm sorry. Turn up your better. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome. What's up, Waffles? Shalom, little bro. So I think they're co-opted. I think Trump appointed them. They get inside the system. The system then sits down and has a chat with them. Mm-hmm. Words to the effect of, Cash, Dan, it's so good to meet you. Thanks for being here. Here's a file, right? And then they pull out a file. It probably looks something like this, right? This is our wilderness responder curriculum. But they pull out a file like this and they go, so, anyway, Marjorie looks great in that yellow sundress she's wearing today. It'd be a shame if something bad was to happen to her. Have you checked the brake lines on your complete description of vehicle now?
Yeah.
When was the last time you had the gas line tested for leaks at insert address where you live here?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation that happens that shows we know everything there is to know about you because you live and have lived in a surveillance state, and you have two options. You can play ball with us, and we will make sure that you're not accidentally killed. The crime rate in D.C. in large part, now there's some total slums in D.C., but in large part, it's political hits. People who are just randomly shot 3 or 4 times on the side of the road, that happens all the time. Happens all the time. Motor vehicle accidents happens all the time. So, anyway, I think they're co-opted. And so, if you compare what they used to say to what they say now, were you lying then? Were you lying now? For example, the whole Jeffrey Epstein was found hung in his cell. The cameras malfunctioned.
Mm-hmm. And both guards were asleep.
But the cameras malfunctioned. We don't have the tape. But now, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are saying, we've seen the tape. He hung himself.
The tape that doesn't
So
exist.
which was it?
Mm-hmm.
Were you lying then, or are you lying now? So, all that to preface, the Department of Justice says, you mean the propaganda arm of the Department of Justice that feeds this information, air quote, to Reuters, which is one of the two, Reuters and AP, two largest, air quote, news services on planet Earth that then disperse all that information to other, air quote, news sources, Fox, MSNBC, ABC, blah, 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 blah. Al Jazeera now, which started as a terrorist organization and now is a media company, literally. So it's information control. What's that, buddy? Epstein's in WITSEC. Yeah.
Mike's got live information.
You don't kill your own, right? Bring him in.
He knows where the bodies are buried. He's in the WITSEC.
100%. He knows where all the bodies are buried. Washington, 3 June, that was yesterday. U.S. federal prosecutors have accused 2 Chinese nationals of smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen that had the potential to be used as an agricultural terrorism weapon in the United States for research. Could we stop playing with dangerous biological weapons for research? If we could just stop doing that, that would be phenomenal. I think that would be really cool if we could just not do that. But Bear, then the Russians will get it. I'm still waiting for the Russians to retaliate on these attacks on their strategic nuclear bombers. It was 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And they said, what is your response? Wait till tomorrow.
3 days ago.
3 days ago. Okay, well, it's tomorrowed a couple of times in the last 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
My question is Russia not because they don't want to or because they can't? And that's the big question. Have they not retaliated because they don't want to or because they can't?
Because they're Russia, I would say because they can't.
And that's kind of, it goes back to, I think there's a lot of the alleged authority that these world governments have is an illusion. Mm-hmm. They have authority because people have ceded authority to them, not because they actually have it. U.S. Department of Justice on Tuesday identified the pathogen as Fusarium graminearum. That sounds like something from Harry Potter. A fungus, it was said, was classified in scientific literature as a potential agroterrorism weapon. In a statement, it said that the fungus causes head blight in some crops and is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses globally each year. Now remember, China China no like us very much. Asymmetric warfare. And, do you remember hearing about, maybe you don't, because this is no knock on you. In fact, it's admirable. You don't follow these things as closely as I do.
No, not remotely.
China's been buying up agricultural land around U.S. military bases for decades.
I was aware of that.
Okay. You know who produces the predominance of quadcopter drones, FPV drones in the world? China. You ever seen crop dusters spraying crops with stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now imagine if one of them was a drone.
They already are running drones for crop dusting.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of like whatever GMO chemicals Monsanto wants sprayed on their crops, it's Fusarium labgadelium. I feel like if you say that enough times, somebody turns into a toad.
Probably.
Fusarium graminarium.
Don't turn me into a toad.
Listen, do not suffer a witch to live, okay? According to the FBI criminal complaint, Zhonyang Liu, 34, a researcher currently in China, brought the fungus in the United States while visiting his girlfriend, Yungjing Jian, 33, in July 2024. Also, I feel like I nailed those names.
You did.
He admitted to smuggling in the fungus so he could conduct research at the University of Michigan laboratory where his girlfriend worked. In any event, the FBI caught them. And so, yay, good job, FBI. And I also want to differentiate here between leadership and boots on the ground. There are good feds out there. I know. I'm not saying all of them are, but there are good feds out there. I'm saying that I don't trust the leadership. I've never trusted the leadership. I mean, James Comey, just James Comey. All right. What about, what was that dude's name? The original guy, J. Edgar Hoover? Mm-hmm. Total scumbag. Mm-hmm. And so, but that's different than the people who are on the ground because, with some of the work that we do, it requires a good fed at times in order to get the work done that we do. And so I'm not knocking the entire Department of Justice, but I am absolutely knocking the leadership because they deserve to be knocked. Hopefully that makes sense.
It circles back to heart set mindset. Like a lot of people who get in on entry level of law enforcement, even federal law enforcement, have a good heart set and a good mindset. Like they want to actually rescue people and do good work.
Yep.
It's not their fault that leadership are dirtbags.
100%. And to a certain extent, if, Jocko talks about this, if you want to affect positive change inside of an organization, you need to be inside of an organization. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, a fair number of people I would say that I know personally, who still work for the government in some capacity.
Yeah, my best friend does.
Knowing it's trash. Mm-hmm. But they're like, we need somebody who's a good person on the inside. I'm like, and I agree with that. And it's the good people on the inside that we work with, So, anyway, Fusarium germinarium, Fusarium graminarium. There's no way I'm remembering that. Fusarium graminarium. That's the bad stuff that the Chinese may have been putting head blight on all of you. What kind of crops, by the way? Corn, rice, wheat, beans, the 4 staples of long-term food storage, the gross preponderance of calories consumed on planet Earth. So, which brings me to what you were saying earlier, Alyssa. Control the controllables. What does that mean to you?
Control what's in your immediate circle to actually influence and do something about. So I made a comment on a live stream last week, because I do actually watch these mostly to figure out if I need to do anything about them, about the fact that the likelihood of me glowing in the dark in nowhere, Oklahoma, while I move rocks with a skid steer is pretty unlikely. And someone commented back, I think they were being sassy, about like, oh my gosh, but have you heard of the wind? The wind will move the things to you. And I just kind of laughed at, like I didn't respond, because it's just so incredibly dumb. Like, I don't control the wind. There's nothing I can do about that. What I can control is my physical location. I've relocated in the last year from a higher population density to a lower population density. I work with people that I know and trust and love. I spent very little time in large cities. I've done a lot of the like traditional prepper things, right? I've controlled my controllables. If I glow in the dark, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, it doesn't matter. And that circles back to, do you know about all the different people, right?
Yeah, shofars and dad, too.
Yeah, right? Blow shofars at tornadoes. Can you control the tornadoes? No, but you have the Father on your side.
You're gonna make me tell the tornado shofar story?
Sure. Tell the tornado shofar story.
I've never told that publicly.
Well, I'll tell a different story first, and then you'll be warmed up for it.
Okay.
Yeah, like, we don't control the weather. We have access to the one who does. We're putting on a roof at Caleb House Actual this week and next week, and it was 2 weeks ago was scheduled to rain straight through, like every day, just rain and rain and rain and rain. So about a week and a half ago, right before our current round of volunteers showed up, I had a little sit down with Dad, and I said, we need to put a roof on. You're aware that we need to put a roof on. I have people coming from very far away on their dime, giving up their time and their work hours to put this roof on. We need to put this roof on. And it has only rained at night since then. And 0% of our work has been affected, and that is not me at all. But half the roof is on, and the other half is going on this week. So control your controllables, and one of your controllables is spending time with the Father, spending time in the Word. Like, that is your controllable. You decide what you do with your 24 hours, because we all have the same amount of it.
That's the ultimate variable, is relationship with Dad.
Yeah.
You know? I'll tell a quick story, and there's actually 3 back to back. And I will preface this quick story with saying, this in no way is because I'm cool. This is all the way because the Father is amazing and loves his kiddos. So don't think that I'm taking credit for anything that's of my doing, because none of this was my doing. But it was literal miracles to behold. So in our second deployment with Grindstone ever to Panama City, Florida, there was a house, a little house with a man and his little wife and their 2 little baby kids inside of it, that had like 3 dozen pine trees, all minimum 24 inches in diameter, all over the top of the house like pickup sticks. They weren't touching the house. Not one of them was touching the house, because they had all fallen and wrapped into each other, and they were all supporting each other. And so I showed up and I was looking at it, and I'm like, well, we can't have it settle anymore and hit the house, because it'll crush the house. And these people have very little in the way of physical goods. And so it took me an hour to figure out where to make my first cut, which is rare for me. I've just cut hundreds of thousands of trees in my life. An hour to figure out where to make the first cut is a big deal. And so we get started and we're cutting, and another big storm is blowing in off the Gulf. And it starts raining, and the wind is, flipping trees around everywhere. And my guys, they're like, boss, we got to go back to the fob. It's getting nasty. And I'm like, I know, but we got to take care of this too, because if the wind causes these trees to fall in this house, what's the point, right? Well, it gets to the point where, like, my guys are like, it's raining sideways, the wind's blowing 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. They're like, we got to go. I'm like, all right. Get in the truck, drive back to the fob, which was only like 4 miles away. And as I pull into where the fob is at, which is a half-destroyed church, we were living and working out of a half-destroyed church with no electricity. I pull in, and there is the only good thing FEMA has ever given me, which was a 20 by 40 shelter. Looks like a big tent, like a big pop-up canopy. And the wind is picking it up and blowing it away. And there are 7 dudes hanging on one end of it, trying to keep it from blowing away. And they're up off the ground as this thing's flying through the air. And I'm furious, because we came out here to help these people, and now there's another storm, another hurricane coming in, and it's going to impede our ability to help these people, and it's wrecking our stuff. And so I'm mad. Mad's not the word. I'm furious. And I start screaming at the sky, knife handing it, rebuking in the name of Yahuwah, the Lord our God. And the storm stopped just on our city block. And that canopy flopped back to the ground. Ka-chunk, lands. And I remember Scott Brooks was one of the guys hanging off the canopy. And he's looking at me stunned. And I'm looking at him stunned because where we were standing, our one city block was perfectly calm. It was as calm as it is inside of this building right now. But all around us, trees are swaying back and forth, snapping in half. There's shingles flying off of roofs. But right here, it was perfectly calm. And I had to go around the side of the building and weep for a minute because that was the first time I had interacted with a storm in that manner. And so rewind 2-3 weeks ago, we're having Train the Trainer here, and there's a tornado on the ground 59 miles away coming directly for my house. And so I was like, hey guys, love you, but we're going to go ahead and go. It was the end of the class anyway. So I go home, and I'm standing on the front porch like Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. The wind's blowing sideways. There's hail flying up on the porch, hitting me in the face. And I'm standing there in my shorts and my rain jacket. And the Spirit's like, go walk around. So I'm walking around in my front yard. There's sheet metal for a chicken coop that's being picked up and blown in circles in my front yard. So what does that tell me, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching the wind come in from the north and then the east and then the south and then the west. Trees are swaying everywhere. And the Spirit says, blow your shofar. So I go back up to the porch, get my shofar, and I blow my shofar at the storm. There's a tornado right a mile away in the field across the street. Blow your shofar. Okay. So I do. And it says, blow your shofar again. And so I do. It says, one more time. Third time pays for all. So I let this shofar blast rip. Just every ounce of lung volume that I have. Just bah! And my wife has texted me from where she and the kids are sheltered up in case our house gets hit by a tornado. She goes, I'm looking at the radar. It has split and it has gone around us. And I was like, okay. I didn't know you could talk to storms with shofars. Okay. And so, actually, that was before Train the Trainer. That was the week before Train the Trainer because the third time was the day of Train the Trainer. And we come back. The same thing, full-blown Lieutenant Dan again. There's hail falling out of the sky. It's crazy. And here comes the storm. And the Spirit says, speak to the storm. I'm like, speak? And I'm having flashbacks to Moshe. Speak to the rock. Don't hit it, right? Don't strike it. Speak to the rock. And I'm like, okay, what do you say to a tornado? And so I just started praying. And I pray in concentric circles when I pray over us. I start with my house, and then the households out from there, and the households out from there, one by one by one. And I got to refuge, and it was so cool that I just spent 2 days with all these people, these Train the Trainer people, all the students, because I knew all of their names. I started going over them one by one by one, praying over them the whole nine. And I'm thanking the Father for all of this, including this storm that's barreling down towards my house. And we do disaster relief. I know what a house hit by a tornado looks like. We have picked up the body parts of people who have been killed by tornadoes off the ground, right? And I'm just like, thank you for this, Father. This is awesome. You know what? You're sovereign over all things. Awesome. Let your will be done. And the storm splits and goes around our house. And it comes back together a mile away from our house.
And then it jumps over my house.
It jumps over
It reconvenes, and then it jumps over my house and reconvenes again. Because I was in Wisconsin losing my mind. There's nothing I could do. I was like, Lord, keep my family and my animals, and are we good? And I watched 6 consecutive hours of Ryan Hall and prayed for this area that day.
Yep.
Because there was nothing I could do.
So it was, hey, you know what, Tim Johnson? You are probably, this is, who said that? Mark has 5x5, wrong channel, Tim Johnson.
Accurate.
Do I sound ridiculous or do you sound ridiculous? You know, listen, I spent a decade in apostasy playing drums in satanic heavy metal bands. If it's an entity or an ism, I've researched it. I know all the apologetics for everything, for Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, all the pagan subsets, all of them. I know all of it. I only know one Elohim. I only know one creator. There is no God but God. And I would pray that he chooses not to utterly destroy you today, because if he does, you will be separated from him for eternity. And I would ask you, Tim Johnson, what mighty works in the name of your false, prideful, egotistical gods have you done for the preservation of life, for the widow, the orphan, the least of these? And if you'd like to compare notes sometime, I'd be happy to do that. And I want to be mad at you for daring to question my faith, but it's actually compassion that I have for you, because you are so ridiculously lost and broken and don't even know it. And it's only by the grace of the Most High that he hasn't utterly destroyed you yet. So you might subordinate your ego, put your knees on the ground, put your face in the dirt, and cry out to the living Elohim and beg his forgiveness, rather than running your mouth on the internet. See which one gets you further. Okay? Truth needs no defender. I need the truth to defend me. And so you are welcome. You're probably an American. You're welcome to believe and say whatever you see fit to believe and say. However, you'll find no receptive audience here, because we know the living God, the one and the only, because he literally performs miracles for us on the daily. And your disbelief will never overshadow my belief, because I have seen him face to face. I know him, and he knows me. And my prayer for you would be that you would come to know him too, because I guarantee you, somewhere in the pits of the person that you are is hurt and shame and fear and heartache and guilt and depression and loneliness and hatred. And you hate yourself. You hate what you've become. You hate the fact that external forces have allowed you to become this broken shell of a man. And there's only one way to fix that, and that's to give all that negativity back to the Father by the blood of the Son. But you can't do that. That will not happen unless you submit. And my prayer is that the Father would beat your ass into submission, just like he did to me, so that I would have an opportunity to come home again by the blood of the Son. So be careful. Be very, very careful testing the Lord your God. Just because you don't know him doesn't mean he doesn't know you. And it's only by his grace and mercy that he has allowed you to make it to this point in your life. You might prayerfully consider that today. Audit your life and ask yourself, is your unbelief really serving you, let alone serving the kingdom of Elohim? And I know the answer to that. The answer is no, because I lived the miserable, terrible life that you are living right now. And now I get to live life and life abundantly. So if you think I'm praying to ghosts, go for it. Tempt the Lord your God and see how it works. And the answer is it doesn't. So, thoughts? It actually, I want to pivot to something. I've got up on the screen, the UK pledges 100,000 new drones for Kyiv. And I get the question a lot from young men who aren't interested, or they're vaguely interested in military service. Mm-hmm. They're like, I don't really want to go fight and die for Lindsey Graham's minerals under Ukrainian soil.
Me either.
And I'm like, that's fair. And they're like, so what should a young man do? And so remember, 3 days ago, Ukraine attacked significant Russian infrastructure in a coordinated attack called Operation Spiderweb across an area some 2,500 miles across all these different bases that they hit. It was an impressive operation. And they did so with drones. And the United Kingdom has now pledged 100,000 new drones for Kyiv, Ukraine. The United Kingdom is part of NATO. Article 5, an attack on one is an attack on all, which could get the United States embroiled. Thank you. Could get the United States embroiled in yet another war over there, potentially at this time with Russia. And so I don't love the UK pledging 100,000 new drones for Kyiv. This is accelerationist warmongering. Which brings me to young men. What should a young man do? And I'll say this, how do you define young? I'd say if you do not yet have any gray hair in your beard. Because I do.
Mindset too.
Yeah.
If you grade early, you don't get a get out of jail free card. Because I started grading at 21.
Fair. What should a young man do? I think you should be, first and foremost, intimately familiar with your Creator and your Redeemer, who are one and the same, Echad. You should read your Bible and do what it says. I think you should find a way to do meaningful work that is fulfilling and purposeful here at home, whatever that may be, whether it's writing code or building houses or electrical or plumbing or concrete or dirt work or, stuffing Bearfax or sewing or whatever it is. You should find meaningful work that actually serves the kingdom and fulfills you, that at the end of the day you feel like you've done something at the end of the day. And I think you should find a good woman and you should have a bunch of babies, preferably early, because as somebody who has a 15-month-old and who has one on the way in his 40s, kids are a blast. Aspen yesterday said, this baby is just so wonderfully annoying.
About Squish.
Yeah. I said, that's kids in a nutshell,
That's
honey.
correct.
That's you too, because they are. Children are wonderfully annoying. And so when you're young, you have more energy to dedicate towards the raising of children, although that shouldn't stop you if you do have gray in your beard and you're in your 40s. And so you should find a good woman and have a bunch of babies and lead a meaningful life while also developing all of those, what we would call militant skills. You should be in good shape. You should move your body 6 days a week and eat real food, preferably food that came off of your own land, and train with your brothers. When I say train, I mean all the things. You should have a plate carrier and a rifle and a war belt and a rucksack and all those things, and know how to use them. And this is not to discourage or diminish anybody who is currently serving or is considering service through the United States Department of Defense. This is specifically for the young men that keep reaching out to me saying, I don't want to go that route, what do I do? The world needs more good, hard-working young men in service to the Father. The world needs more good, young, hard-working women in service to the Father. The world needs more babies. We are in a huge demographic decline. And I think that I know, I'm proof of it, that you can live a very impactful, meaningful life apart from military service. When I was a young man, I wanted to be in the military. I took my ASVAB. I wanted to go 0331 in the Marine Corps, and that was my plan, and I broke my sternum. And this was prior to 9/11.
Thank God you did.
And thank God I did, right? The Father had other plans. It was prior to 9/11, and so the recruiting standards were different at the time. Post 9/11, I got a lot of phone calls from recruiters saying, hey man, we got your ASVAB score, we got you, do you want to come party? It's like, I want to, but I can't, because I'd started my first company in order to feed my mom and my little sisters at the time. And so I've always had a lot of respect and honor for the men and women in uniform, including my immediate family and extended family, all like it's part of what tore me up was our whole family. Military service was just part of what you did, you know. In my immediate family, we have Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force all represented. Okay, and then a bunch of badasses too, like Naval Special Warfare, and just a bunch of badasses, Marine Corps snipers, and and so I grew up with that ethos. It's like that's what you do. You go and serve, and if you want to do 4 years, do your 4 years, then get out, and then go do whatever you want to do. And that pathway was not open to me. The Father closed that door to me, and so I don't knock that at all. But I am consistently getting young men asking, what do I do? Because I don't want to go that route. It's very appealing because there's an element of discipline and rigor, but also danger and physical training. And it's like, it's a perfect job for a young man. Go do hard things. Here's a gun. It's like, that's beautiful.
And it's easier in that circumstance to outsource your discipline. You're in a circumstance where everyone around you is also required to be disciplined. You have leadership that is expecting discipline from you. You have people in the chain above you who are expecting you to do your PT and to work hard on your tests and to execute with excellence. It's harder to do that, especially when you're young, on your own.
Yeah.
But the expectation should be the same.
That's a great point. So now, pivoting just a little bit, you are a young lady. You're happily married. Your husband's amazing.
Yeah, let's keep that in the
Yep,
forefront.
just so we're all on the same page here. Alyssa's not available.
No.
Her husband's an awesome brother. But I've never been a girl. I'm never going to be a girl.
That's very good. I
Yeah.
think Hami approves.
Yeah, even if it is LMNOP month, it's actually the month of goon. The proof of my heterosexuality is in my wife's womb at the moment. So,
She is adamantly ignoring us.
what?
You
I
can
lo-
have a baby. Congratulations.
I love you, babe.
Also, he's definitely a dude.
Definitely a dude. You are not.
Correct.
So I would ask you, what traits in a young man do good young women find attractive these days?
Steadiness,
Okay.
consistency. What that looks like is someone who actually does what they say they're going to do and acts on the things they say are priorities. It's really easy to say, well, I'm really into fitness, or I really want to do, this class or this race, or I want this degree, or I want fill in the blank, and then not execute on it. I see a lot of women get frustrated with that, get irritated with that when they're in dating relationships or when they're seeking that. So a lot of talk with very little action is very irritating. That circles back. Someone said honesty. That circles back to honesty, because if you're saying that you want to do something and you're making no effort towards that, you are being dishonest, probably to yourself. There is something to be said about both physical and mental fitness. You want to be attracted to each other. That means that you should seek to be attractive physically and mentally, and that's not there's a good amount in the word about not puffing yourself up as decorating yourself, right? I'm not going to be vain. I'm not trying to dress provocatively, men and women. This goes both directions. Not trying to attract attention in that direction, but I am trying to make myself the best that I can be. And that is attractive. Go put your rucksack on and work out. Because that's going to level you out too. It's going to make you a more steady person in your personality. It's going to help your hormones chill the F out when you go do some PT every day. And fill your mind with good things. Read books. Don't mindlessly scroll. Don't fill your head with garbage. It's a little bit funny, like the amount of disinterest I have in the news for the most part. It's just because I don't have the bandwidth right now. Like, I would rather put being better at work, being better for my family, and making myself a better leader into my head right now, and I only have so much space. And that in other people is really attractive to women in general, to me. I love it when Elle does that. Like, yes, feed your brain. Integrity, forward momentum, do something meaningful. And something meaningful doesn't mean you have to work with your hands. Working with your hands is a really good idea, especially when you're young, because it keeps your body moving, and sitting is the new smoking. Like, you're going to wear yourself out if you sit at a desk all day.
That's a good word.
Go move. But we need excellent financial planners. We need excellent attorneys. We need excellent tax professionals and directors and administrators and CEOs and all of those things. Like, we need those people too. So just because your calling isn't with your hands doesn't mean your calling isn't valid and highly needed. So chase that down too. And if you're looking for a woman who's a believer and filling all of the boxes of acting in excellence, go be in spaces where there's believers who are acting in excellence. Go find your people. Don't be afraid to travel. Don't be afraid to go to events, go to trainings, go talk to other people, because sometimes it's, I know a guy who knows a girl.
Yep. Well, and the Father will arrange things.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that goes back to belief, being in prayerful belief that the Father is preparing someone for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to navigate. My oldest daughter is in an extremely serious committed relationship.
And we love him.
Yeah, we love him. And my youngest daughter was sitting on my lap while I was reading this morning before I came to work, drinking her baba before she got her diaper changed. Right? So there's a spectrum here.
Fields of life.
But one of the honors of my lifetime was when my oldest daughter, when she was 16, almost 17, came to me and she said she'd had a couple of relatively serious boyfriends, both of which were good guys, you know, still know them, still respect them, but it didn't work out for various reasons. And she came to me and she said, "Dad," I'm like, "What's up?" She goes, "I need help finding a husband." And I was like, "You're 16. What do you mean?" She goes, "Not right now, Dad." But she's like, "I want to be a wife. I don't want to be a girlfriend. I want to be a wife. And I don't know what a husband should look like. So I need your help finding a husband." I was like, "Well, you should pray about that." She's like, "I have." And I was like, "Okay, well then we should pray on that." And so then we did. And it was part of, you know, having an active prayer life. That was part of our regular prayers, is knowing that the Father was preparing the young man out there somewhere for her, just as he was preparing her to be the appropriate young woman for one young man out there. And so Father, put these two together wherever they might be. And they met at the Ruckus 2 years ago. And things are progressing to the point of extreme seriousness, which is I am in support of. Just had this talk last weekend. Yes, I give you my blessing. But it's important to point out that she was preparing herself to be somebody's wife, not to be somebody's girlfriend. And we were in active prayer over that. And she's now legally an adult, although legally and actually are two different things. There's degrees to adulting.
I don't feel like an adult some days, so it's fair.
I've kind of rejected all of the stereotypical societal norms of adulthood and just done whatever the hell I wanted to do. But she was preparing herself at the same time that the Father was preparing this young man, at the same time we as a family were actively praying over, and still are actively praying over, this relationship. And so I would submit to your point, like, to go where there are good people. The Father will arrange those meetings. But you know, one of the biggest questions I get all the time from young men is, how do I find a wife? It's like, well, you need to be husband material.
For real.
And a wife will find you.
and to your point, not boyfriend material.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a difference. And the way you treat women will be affected by that. Like, if you're walking around just wanting to be somebody's boyfriend, your attitude and the way you carry yourself and the way you treat her will be different than if you're seeking a wife. Because until she's your wife, she's not your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And you are expected to treat her with that level of respect and autonomy. And then when she's your wife, she's all the way your wife. And
Yep.
you're expected to provide provision, protection, and blessing.
Yep.
And there's a lot of preparation that can and should go into that, just like there's a lot of preparation for women in what can and should go into being a wife and being a wife with excellence.
A good father will not hand his daughter over to a boyfriend.
No.
You have to be husband material for me to hand my daughter to you. And that's at a wedding, that's the symbology of the father walking the bride down and then handing her off, because that daughter is coming out from underneath the covering of the father and going underneath the covering of this man who will be her husband. And what that means is, once those vows are exchanged, and once that marriage is consummated, the vows are exchanged with the full expectation that that marriage will be consummated, because there is no covenant without blood. That young woman is my daughter second and is now his wife first, right? And that transition that has to happen is part of what I was talking about with this young man this past weekend, is when this happens, she's your wife first and my daughter second. And so here are the biblical expectations for you as a husband. You know, Exodus 21 denotes your food, your covering, your marital rights. Well, what does that mean in, you know, the 21st century? Food isn't just food, it's also bills, right? Covering isn't just four walls and a roof. It's you standing in between your wife and your family and whatever external threats there are. Safety, exactly, right? And marital rights is not just consummating the relationship, it's the inheritance for your children. It's part of why the firstborn male gets a double portion, because the expectation there is that because men typically die earlier than women, so my oldest son, whom you know quite well, he gets a double portion on an inheritance. Why? One portion is for him, the half of that is for him, the other half is for mom. That when I'm dead, because we're commanded, right, to forsake not the widow and the orphan. So that's why the firstborn gets the double portion, so that he can take care of the widow after the husband is gone. And the widow is not a burden on anyone. And so, you know, anyway, all this to say, I think that there's a lot of meaningful, worthwhile endeavors for a young man outside of military service. And Red said earlier in the chat, and it was a good comment, service is a calling, and not all are fit for service. And I was not fit for service. I had a broken sternum. Cool. Okay, that doesn't mean that I can't serve the kingdom in other ways.
And you have.
So
I think I just want to touch on one more thing. You commented on, like, the father is the protector of his daughter until he hands her over. A lot of people do not have good father figures. A lot of people don't have that role met in their lives. It is okay as a woman, even as an adult woman, to find yourself a older couple who is willing to fill that role for you in protection. My husband and I are actually going to be walking our daughter down the aisle next year. She is not biologically our daughter. Our age gap is actually rather small, but we have that privilege because she asked us to fill that role and to protect her through the search for a husband and to protect her through that transition into adulthood. We love the young man that she's with, but it's okay if your biological dad or your adopted dad, whoever it is not filling the role of protector in that way. It's okay to go find someone who will protect you in that way so that you have that buffer zone.
It's a great word. All right, last thing I want to touch on quickly before we put a bow on this conversation.
Yeah.
You mentioned grocery store earlier, and I thought that was a great mental exercise that you did last time you were at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
So could you quickly share what that looked like for you?
Yeah. So I normally grocery shop early on Sunday mornings because that's when no one else is there. And this last Sunday we celebrated Shavuot. So I ended up going to the grocery store on Monday afternoon, which I don't recommend because it's full of humans. And as I was walking through the grocery store, I was just doing a little bit of a mental exercise with myself because we're doing some prep audits, and the world is always spicy. You should audit your preps once a year. We kind of do spring cleaning and make sure nothing's been influenced by mice, turn stuff over. Big fan of storing what you eat and eating what you store so things don't just expire and go in the trash. And so as I was walking through the grocery store, I was playing through in my head what we have in the pantry and playing a game of if I couldn't come back to the grocery store for 3 months, what would I buy? Because I know a lot of people, if you're right on the front end of preparedness, going out and buying a year's worth of food is not practical. That's not attainable tomorrow. And I personally will never advocate for you going into debt, especially for something that's not a guarantee. But I think adding a few weeks or a little bit of a buffer is more attainable for people. So I was going through and what would I get? What do we not have for the next 3 months? If I was limited to just the farm stands that I frequent and my garden and my immediate friend group as far as food trades, what would I get? And we'd kind of gone through our condiments and get mustard, get salad dressing, get whatever in that direction. And then why would you buy those things? Why am I actively using them? Why am I low on them? Why don't I have 3 months of those things? What needs to happen in order for me to be more disciplined in keeping up with inventory or making sure that we're rotating our food correctly? So just a little mental exercise next time you go grocery shopping. If you couldn't go back to the grocery store and you just had to rely on your garden, your people, your local farm stands for the next 3 months, which is summer, so it's a good production time for most people if you are into gardening, what would that look like? What would you buy? Why don't you already have it? And if it's in your budget to start building that cushion, go ahead and act on that now, because prices are just going to keep going up. So now is the best time.
Good word.
Thanks.
All right. Let's shift gears one more time. I thought this was a good conversation.
I agree.
I enjoy White Girl Wednesdays. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
I think that the quality of the show is better when I have someone to talk to, in real life, rather than just a camera to talk at. And one of the things that helps me when it's just a camera to talk at, to get back into someone to talk to, is I know, and so many of the people that are in this chat right now. I know Salson. I've trained with Salson. I know Sarah Kelly. I know Texas Sheep Lady. Just scrolling back. I know Striker Cade. I know Maverick. I know Whoopi. Whoopi, I'll tell you, Whoopi, you are one of the people that when I'm I gotta talk at the phone, it's no, I get to talk to the phone. Mm-hmm. And I need to see real people's faces on the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
In order for me to feel engaged and bought in. Because I don't, you know me, there's literally a thousand other things I could be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should be doing right now, right? Whoopi is one of the few that I see Whoopi's face, I remember Whoopi. I remember hugging Whoopi, hanging out with Whoopi, going into the lake with Whoopi, right? Reading the Bible. I remember Whoopi, and I'm like, oh, this matters.
Yep.
These things matter. But that being said, I like having another human in real life to conversate with and bounce ideas back and forth on, because I think it provides a higher quality content to the end user, to the Bear Nation. So thank you for being here. Let's shift gears one more time. It is the month of Goon. If you don't know what the month of Goon is, refugemedical.com.
We're celebrating men being real men.
That is correct.
Hijacking June back.
Provision, protection, blessing. And so on the protection front, hopefully you guys and girls know by now, refugemedical.com. Refuge is one of my companies. I am the founder of it. 145 lives saved to date. I want to give a quick shout out to Jeremiah, who came to our Train the Trainer class and just sent us in an after action report where he arrived on scene where EMS was already there. It was a motor vehicle accident, and they were struggling to get a cat tourniquet around the driver's leg. And because the driver had large legs, and one of the things we touch on in class is the difference between a cat and a soft T. And so he had a soft T tourniquet, and he applied the soft T tourniquet in the presence of EMS and saved the guy's life. So awesome, great job, Jeremiah, who is Refuge alumni. That's amazing. So 145 lives saved to date because he had the equipment and he had the training to be able to intervene for the preservation of life. And that's what we're all about here, is the preservation of life. And so these are not products that I hope will work. These are not products that we sell with the intent of separating hardworking people from their money as efficiently as possible. These are products that I know work and that I literally carry myself. And every one of our products, they're not just good ideas. We've pressure tested every one of them. If you look on the screen, this Bearfac right here, that's the Bearfac 3.0. I came up with that myself in my barn for me because I needed a first aid kit that didn't suck. And we've now sold, praise the Most High, tens of thousands of these. These are on 4 continents because they work. There is no comparison. They are also unapologetically not cheap. We actually had somebody write in on the chat who said words to the effect of he was looking at the trauma kit. He's like, or the vehicle kit. He said something like, $300 for a first aid kit that attaches to your headrest? There can't be that much stuff in there.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
First of all, there's a lot of stuff in there. Second of all, we make these in the United States of America. Third, we guarantee them forever. Fourth, I know they work. And that's the really important part. This is not a bunch of Chinese-made, Alibaba, low price point bull crap that's in this kit. This is the best first aid stuff on planet Earth for the preservation of life. And what this does, what this $300 does, is it gets you peace of mind, okay? That you have the stuff that you need to stop the clock on death if needed. And it comes with the headrest mount. It's sewn in America. It's guaranteed forever. Mounts right to your headrest, good to go right there. And the inner pulls right out of the outer, so you can get at it when you need it. That's the whole point. So we pressure test all of these things. We have hundreds of after action reviews on the equipment. I rail against commoditized price point garbage in the pre-hospital trauma medicine space, because there's lots of people that put together an IFAC, an individual first aid kit, influencers. There's lots of influencers that have their own little first aid kit. That's fine. Mazel tov, capitalism, do your thing. We're not that. We are an education and instruction company that serves customers exactly like you, that has products on 4 continents with 145 lives saved to date. And so these are not good idea fairy things. These are proven kits. I can't tell you which units and agencies due to NDAs are running this exact kit right here, that SOB, but I can tell you that there are several of them. I can tell you that. That's the SOB small to back kit that was developed for the competitive shooting space. Our brother Patriot Plumber was like, hey, I'm doing a whole bunch of like run and gun stuff and all of the other first aid kits. He goes, I've tried them all, man, and they all suck. They just don't work. You guys make stuff that doesn't suck. Can you make me one? Sure. And so we did, and here it is. And it weighs less than a pound, mounts on the back of your war belt. I have one on my plate carrier upside down so that I have something to put my elbow on when patrolling, and I have it upside down so that if I need to, I can pull down, grab the red handle, pull out, and now I'm holding in my hand a Made in America blowout kit, because you don't want it's my primary beef with all these other kits. You don't want your first aid kit stuck to you, because if I need it, I probably can't get at it. I want it where I can deploy it. So, celebrating the month of Goon, be sure to hit the store, refugemedical.com, or call us. The phone number is right there on the website. Email us, or use the live chat. It's live chat for a reason. There's no robots on the other side. So many of y'all I've talked to on the phone or in the chat, they're like, oh my gosh, is this actually Bear? Yeah, it's me. When I say there's real people on the other end, sometimes it's me. I'm the real person on the other end.
We're in the actual office right now.
Yeah, and this side of the camera doesn't look that impressive, but if I swing this around and show you like the rest of the office, like there's like things happening over here. Okay? Like there are people here that are like filling your orders right now and shipping stuff and sewing kits and doing all of that. So I don't know if you're in the shot.
It doesn't really matter.
It does matter. It matters a lot to me. Okay. And then 2 other things I want to show you guys. We have 5 seats remaining of 30 for the Kentucky Sustainable Living class. Where is that? Right here. And this class is at a deep discount. This is a 4-hour class for $200. And Mike and I will be teaching at the Kentucky Sustainable Living event. So this class is in addition to your price to get into the Kentucky Sustainable Living Festival, but this is a deeply discounted price for class, and there's only 5 remaining of this. We limited this to 30 seats, 25 have sold, and so if you want to come to class, we strongly recommend it. This is July 18th in Kentucky. It's the only class that we have going on the road right now. We also have coming up June the 22nd is this Refuge Responder one-day training event, and that's here in Spiro. Only got a few seats left on this as well, so I would encourage you to come to class here, and we'll be teaching Responder 1 and Responder 2, so that's scenario-based training as well as lecture and practical application. Wear some clothes that you're comfortable getting fake blood and mud on, because there will be fake blood and mud, and there's only so many seats remaining on this one. So, we told you guys, praise the Most High, classes are selling out. So like radio made easy, 0 to hero radio operator, this class is, at the end of the month, it's sold out, and it's been sold out. So, and then of course, you've got Wilderness Responder coming up as well. and we have another Train the Trainer coming up as well. So if you missed Train the Trainer the first time around, we've got another Train the Trainer class coming up. Dates on that are November 9th, 10th, and 11th, and you need to have taken one of these other classes as a prereq in order to come to Train the Trainer, because you need to be familiar with the material, because Train the Trainer is just as much, if not more, about how to teach than it is the curriculum, what to teach. And so a great prereq to Train the Trainer is come to the Refuge Responder one-day event, and that's on June the 22nd here in Oklahoma. What's up?
Sawson just said, remember when a phone consult came with a $20 Patreon membership? Life hack, just called the store. Might work, might not.
GrindstoneMinistries.com is our disaster relief ministry. They are headed back from London, Kentucky today after being there for 2.5 weeks of doing the things there.
Yeah.
Please keep them in prayer. There are some significant opportunities for Grindstone to grow in its scope and its impact. So please keep Grindstone in prayer. And then if you would like to support, if the Spirit is moving you, and only if the Spirit's moving you, you can click this support button right here. Links are in the description to all this stuff. And then also, here's the email blast. We don't spam you on emails or anything like that. But, you know, Grindstone is out there doing things, making stuff happen. And unlike a lot of other, air quote, ministries, this is me praying. Thanks, Dud. This is me talking to people. This was Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Okay? So
That was the first deployment I kept up with you on.
Yep. My old truck. I remember that house. That house right there, Cheyenne and I, my oldest daughter, in this house right here, it's hard to see, but in the top of that house is right here behind this. The front of the house is gone, and there was one of these pine trees, look at the size of these pine trees, stuck through the house like an arrow. And
Cute.
so next door to here was the Choctaw Nation little hospital thing, and the Governor Stitt, was over here doing a press release, and they were setting up to do the press release. And I'm talking to all the people there. I said, has anybody checked on anybody in this house? They said, what? No, why? Why would we do that? I said, look at the house. Has anybody checked to see if there's anybody in there? They said, no, we haven't. So me and my oldest daughter go over here. We climb over all these trees, get in there. The front of the house is gone. Go in there, and I said, hello, the house. And this little shriveled up old man comes walking out of his kitchen holding a cup of coffee, and he goes, good morning. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, sir, is there anybody else in the house? He says, yes, my wife. She's asleep upstairs. And I look, and a pine tree, 24-inch diameter pine tree, was through one of the bedrooms. And I'm like, oh no. I said, sir, which room is she in? He goes, the one on the left, I think. And I'm looking, and it's the one on the right that has a tree through it. I'm like, please, Father, let it be the one on the left. And so I told Cheyenne, I said, stay with the old man. Let him know he can't stay here. We're going to have to get him out. So I go upstairs, and I just crack the left door open, and there's his wife laying there sleeping in bed with a tree through the bedroom next door. And I'm like, through the bedroom, not into the bedroom, through it, like a projectile. I'm like, oh, thank you, Father. And so we cut just this one house. We cut all these trees out, and then their car was in this garage over here on the left. And I was like, sir, you can't stay here. Do you have any place to go? And he goes, yeah, we've got some friends we could go to, but, you know, I've got to be able to get the car out of the garage. Well, there was a tree that had also hit the garage door, so it wouldn't roll up. So we took the grapple on the skid steer and just ripped the door off.
Why not?
So, yeah, I remember that house, man. Yeah, I mean, look at that front yard. And so this is what Grindstone does. I remember that house, too. There's Mav doing his thing right there. Bob Fellon. Oh, my gosh. That's Ross and Julia's place. Oof.
That's the one
Yeah.
that was in the house inside the house.
The house inside the house inside the house.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but on the back here is a boom of a track hoe. And I was about to demo this house. The original house was a mud brick hut, about 10 by 12 foot. And that was the original homestead house. This property had been in their family for over 100 years. And they were able to get their family inside of that mud brick hut before the tornado hit their house. And their son was racing onto property, and he's like, I knew the gate was going to be closed. And I could see the tornado in my rearview mirror. And I knew I wasn't going to have time. So he's flying up to the gate just praying, please, God, open the gate. And a gust of wind came and blew the gate open. And they came flying up in the front yard, got out. They got inside. Inside this house is another house that they put this facade on. And then inside of that, as their pantry, I believe it was the original mud brick house. They got their whole family, 4 generations inside that little mud brick house. And it's what kept the rest of the house from landing on them and killing all of them. And they're just a precious family, Ross and Julia. And so, this is what Grindstone does. If you want to do that with us, there's this Be Ready to Deploy button down here. Volunteer now. Feel free to click that button if you want to come out with us on the next one. Which brings us to calebhouse.org, which you know a thing or two about.
Just a few things, yeah.
I gotta pee. Why don't you
Okay.
talk to them about Caleb House while I go pee?
So, Caleb House is our juvenile human trafficking restoration facility, and that's a lot of long words to say that we go rescue kids who've had bad things done to them by bad people, and we put them back together again. I can answer exactly 0 of your questions about our operations side because I don't know, very much on purpose. I'm head of construction and development, so our building of Caleb House Actual, which is the prototype at this point and will be one of many. Hopefully, we'll just keep building them until the problem goes away. Right now, we're in the process of putting up multiple buildings on our site. We've had a team of fantastic volunteers so far this year. We have many more fantastic volunteers slated for this second half of 2025. If you want to be a part of that, you can email me, volunteers@calebhouse.org. There's a background check process. We're gonna have you jump through a few hoops before we get you on site, but it is a large part of my job to facilitate you being able to come and be the hands and feet of the Father as we put Caleb House together and prep it for putting these kids back together. Once we're done with Caleb House 1, we're going to go move on to building Caleb House 2 and 47 and 89 until I'm no longer kicking, and we'll hand it off to somebody else and they can do it, because I personally don't think the problem is going away. I read the word. It says it's going to get worse before it gets better, so we're just going to keep building Caleb House while it gets worse, and we're going to try and make it better. Vanessa, yes, we need skilled carpenters badly. Email me, volunteers@calebhouse.org. Email me directly. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me and to get you on site. I can start that process rolling. Get your background check rolling. We're going to do a phone interview. There's going to be a couple things. So please don't think you're walking on without the hoops. But I do try to make the hoops as streamlined as possible, make the process as pleasant as I can. We do have openings. We have a couple openings left in July, and then I'm booking out for August, September, October with some more specific and like directly skilled individuals.
I see you, Brother Gas. Good morning.
I am looking for... I talked to someone at the Ruckus. So if you were at the Ruckus and you talked to me and you have a mobile sawmill, email me because I can't remember your name. We are looking for someone with a mobile sawmill who's willing to come for about a week. We have a lot of trees that are cut and ready to go through said sawmill. and would really like to be using the lumber that's on site already for sustainability, just for the aesthetic too, like how beautiful to have solid oak shelves and built-ins and stuff like that. But we just like to be utilizing the resources that we have there. So if you are that person and you want to come hang out and run trees through Sawmill, that would be awesome. Other than that, if you have any questions, you can sign up for our email blast on the website. We also don't spam you. You can email me. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, share all that stuff out. That would be awesome.
I would also add to be praying for Caleb House volunteer staff, as well as the people that are in our care.
Yes.
We have several concurrent operations running right now, and I had a brother reach out and invite us to come speak at an event, and this is not me knocking that brother in any way. I know he watches the show too, but I said I can't come speak at your event, and the first reason is we're really busy. The second reason is I don't have anything to say to a room full of people. And so I would then ask the question in reverse. It's a significant event. There's lots of big names in counter-trafficking that are going to be there. Why are they not busy? Why do they have things that they can speak on? When I can tell you, as somebody who's unfortunately intimately involved and what counter-trafficking looks like, there's very, very little that can be said on camera, and we don't have the time to say it even if we could.
Yep.
And so then that almost becomes a litmus test for, are people actually doing anything? Well, if they have the time to speak and plenty to speak about, I can just say this, my own personal experience with the people that are appearing on these panels is no, they're really good at talking, and they're really good at talking. So, and we'll end with this. Texas Sheep Lady said, and it was a good comment, if I can find it again. Let me scroll back. Good morning, Mark Chase.
The Army one?
Yeah.
The Army to join for the young men looking for meaningful work is Caleb House and Grindstone.
Yeah. We got you. Brother Bear, how many mouths are currently on site at Refuge HQ? About a dozen, Donnie O'Keefe. About a dozen. Good morning, Double Tap and Hillbilly. That's a good brother right there. I appreciate you. Let's pray. Let's put a bow on this thing. Let's get about our day. Shall we? Let's do it. Good morning, Father Yahweh. Father, thank you for allowing us to wake up on this side of the dirt today. And Father, we know that's for a purpose. And so, Father, those that don't know what that purpose is, I pray that you would reveal it to them. And those of us that do, I pray that you would walk with us in it, that the storms would be quieted, and that you would prosper and bless the steps that we take on behalf of you to be in service to your kingdom and to your kiddos. Father, the person in this chat earlier that does not know you and dares to raise his mouth at you, I pray that you would have compassion on them, but also that you would reveal yourself to them. And Father, that your will would be done, that you just be merciful in the process of bringing them home again, because as someone who knows what that is like, I know how much fear, real fear, is involved in that process. So Father, I pray that you'd be firm but gentle and loving with them, that you would reveal yourself to them in spirit and in truth. Father God, please keep our Grindstone people safe as they come home today. And Father, whatever opportunities present themselves, I pray that you would be manifested in those opportunities, and that your will would be done, that you would open the doors that need to be opened and close the doors that need to be closed. And Father, I ask the same thing for Caleb House, that you would be with our people in the field, and our people turning fields into houses.
all of our people, Father, and your daughters and your children that you have seen fit to put into our hand for life and life abundantly, that you would just smile upon all these things that we do in your name today. Father, that you would bless everybody inside of this building here for the preservation of life and the original Stop the Bleed protocol, that the works of our hands would get kits where they need to go at the right place at the right time, that people's physical bodies might be maintained so that you would have an opportunity to further minister to their eternal soul. Father, yeah, everybody within the sound of my voice, I thank you for them today. I thank you that we get to speak with real people, and that there are real people on the other side of this device that come to know you better. So, Father, I pray that you just smile on us today, that you would empower us to do good works on behalf of your kingdom, that you would walk with us, that you'd keep us safe and deliver us from temptation and give us this day our daily bread. And most of all, just teach us to walk in the Spirit, to walk in love and self-control. Father, to be a blessing to others. We ask these things in Yeshua's name. Amen. All right, y'all. Love you guys. We gotta go do work.
Yeah.
You know how it is. Thanks for being here for White Girl Wednesday. And do all the YouTube things, or don't. Share the show. That helps. We'll see you when you see it. Shalom.